So for number 15, it says to evaluate the expression 1/4 minus 2 times the cubed root of negative 1 over 216. So just keep in mind that you need to do the order of operations. So I'm just going to rewrite it with a little more simplified version. We're talking about 1/4 minus 2 times the cubed root of negative 1 over 216. Remember from a previous lesson, when you cube root a fraction, you can cube root the numerator and denominator separately. So I know that the cube root of 1 is just 1. And then I have to find the cube root of 216. I'm just going to put this negative here because I know that my answer is going to be negative. If you're not sure what it is, you can do guess and check. So multiply some numbers together 3 times. Like if I'm going to try 2, it'd be 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8, so that's way too small. You can go on to any scientific calculator online and do a cube root as well. So if I'm trying to do the cube root, and sometimes you have to play with it a couple times to figure out how to work it. If I'm going to do the cube root, that's this button here. Cubed root of 216, parentheses, let's see what it gets us, 6. So going back to our problem, it's going to be a 6 here. Now I just go ahead and simplify the rest of the problem. So 1/4 minus, and now we're going to take care of the multiplication. Because after our exponents, according to PEMDAS, we're going to do our multiplication. So we do 2 times negative 1/6. Go ahead and figure that out. That's going to be a negative 2/6. So now we're going to go ahead and find a common denominator, which would probably be 12. So we're going to turn our 1/4 into 3/12. And then we're going to turn our negative 2/6 into a negative 4/12. And then we go ahead and subtract. So we have 3/12 minus negative 4/12. Remember, when you're subtracting a negative, you're simply adding a positive. So this like turns into a big plus sign here, right? So you might want to review subtracting negatives if you're confused on that part. You can find any video on YouTube on subtracting negative numbers. And then finally, you're going to get 7/12. All right, the next one, number 16, says evaluate the expression. So again, we have operations with exponents and adding. So you always want to take care of the exponents first in this case, right? So we have 54 plus, and now it's asking for the cubed root of negative 4,096. Again, I would highly suggest you use a calculator. So 4,096, if you just simply use your cube root function, which looks like this, we're talking about 4,096. Let's see what happens when we put that in. 16. Thank you, calculator. So now we know it's simply 54 plus negative 16. We do have that negative number here, right? And now it's just a matter of adding these two numbers together. So again, we have a positive and a negative, so it's really just subtraction. So it's like 54 minus 16. So if you were to do that, that's going to give you 38, and we are correct. So that's 38. 17 is another evaluate the expression. This is 4 times the cube root of 8,000 minus 6. So again, you want to use your order of operations. We always want to simplify your exponents or your roots first. So that's going to be 4 times. Go ahead and find the cubed root of 8,000. So my cube root button here, 8,000 gives us 20. So it's really 4 times 20 minus 6. And now we have multiplication and subtraction. So of course we're going to do multiplication first before we subtract. And we end up with our number 74. Number 18, evaluate the expression for the given value of the variable. So we're going to plug in 500 for here. So it's the cubed root of 500 divided by 4 plus 500 divided by 10. So this cube root here, we can do cube root of 500 separately, and then the cube root of 4 separately, or you can simplify the fraction and then cube root the whole simplified fraction. So I have a feeling that simplifying the fraction might be better for us. So if you do 500 divided by 4, well, we know that 500 divided by 2 is 250. Divide that by 2 again, and you're going to get 125. So now we're really just going to find the cube root of 125. And then we can go ahead and simplify this side here. So you can eliminate those zeros. So really, it's going to be 50 that we're adding. Okay? So, I'm sorry, this 3 should really be a little smaller so it doesn't look like 3 times. It should be a small 3 so that you know it's a cube root. So that should be like that. Now, when you find the cube root of 125, if you don't happen to know that, go to the calculator. Cubed root of 125 is 5. So we're really just adding 5 plus 50 to get 55. Number 19, evaluate the expression for the given value of the variable. So again, we're plugging in the number into our variable w. So this is the cubed root of 6 times 288 minus 288. So subtract the 280, you're going to multiply the 6 and the 288. Don't be afraid to use a calculator. What are we multiplying in? 6 times 288. Okay, so 1,728. So it's the cubed root of 1,728 minus 288. Order of operations tells us to take care of the exponents first. That would be the roots before we subtract. So again, the cubed root of that, let's see if we can do it like this. Oh, it does it for us automatically. 12. So that's going to be 12 minus 288. And when you subtract that, awesome, you get a negative 276. Number 20, evaluate the expression for the given value of the variable. Again, you're plugging in 75. So 2 times 75 plus the cubed root of negative 45 times 75. So we're going to multiply the 75 times 45 first. 75 times 45. 3375, so that's the cube root of 3375. Okay, do 2 times 75, that's 150. So of course do our cube roots first, right? So we're going to go to the calculator, cube root that. Oops, something happened. Go back. Okay, cubed root is 15. So then we're really going to have 150. And I forgot that this was a negative. So it's actually going to be a negative 15, right? So that's going to be plus negative 15. And when you go ahead and add those together, you're going to get 135. All right, I'll go ahead and do 26. The estimated velocity v in miles per hour of a car at the end of a drag race is v equals 234 times the cubed root of p over w, where p is the horsepower of the car and w is the weight in pounds of the car. A car has a horsepower of 1,311 and weighs 2,744 pounds. Find the velocity of the car at the end of a drag race. Round your answer to the nearest whole number. So this is simply a matter of plugging in our values. Velocity, let's see, the horsepower is P, right? So that's going to go here, the 1311, right? So the 1311 goes there. W is the weight in pounds, so that's the 2744. Find the velocity. We're looking for V. So let's write it out again. V equals 234 times the cubed root of 1,311 divided by 2,744. Go into our calculator. We're going to first divide this to simplify it, right? 1311 divided by 2744. So 1311 divided by 2744. That's some strange number. You can leave this in your calculator and then just simply hit the cubed root button to get 0.781 something, right? So, and then we're going to multiply that number by 234. So times 234. When you leave everything in the calculator, you get an answer that's going to be more exact, right? Instead of clearing, punching things in, rounding. You always want to round at the very end if at all possible. Okay, so 182.9. Let's see if we did that right. Yeah, so that is approximately 183 when you round it to the nearest whole number. Okay. Solve the equation, 31. So these are pretty fun. You always have to remember that when you're solving the equation, you want to isolate your variable and you want to use inverse operations. So what we want to undo first is this cubed. The inverse of cubing something is the cubed root. So you're going to cube root both sides of the equation. Cubed root. These then cancel out. You're left with 3x plus 4 equals, now just go to your calculator and you're going to cube root 2197. So let's do 2197 cubed root equals 13. And now it's just a simple two-step equation where you want to undo your addition and subtraction first. Right, so we're using inverse operations to undo the plus 4. We're going to get 3x equals 9. And then, of course, x equals 9. I'm sorry, 3. X equals 3. Okay, I have time for hopefully 2. Let's go quickly. This one here, similar to what we just did, you're going to want to cube root both sides, right? So if I cube root here, and then I cube root here, you're going to get rid of the cube root and the cube here. To get 8x cubed minus 9 equals, go to your calculator to cube root the 5832. So 5832 cube root is 18. So here we have 18. Now we can undo our addition subtraction first by adding 9 on both sides. We get 8x cubed equals 27. And now we want to go ahead and divide by 8. I just realized I didn't record this last problem, so here we go. What I did was I first cubed root both sides, right, to get rid of this cube here, because cubing and cube root are inverse operations. So then you're left with 8x cubed minus 9 equals 18. 18 was the cube root of this 5,832, which I did on the calculator. Okay? And then what I was saying is that you always have to undo in the opposite order of PEMDAS when you're solving. So I went ahead and continued the rest of the steps. I subtracted the 9 first, and then I undid the multiplication, and finally I undid the exponent by taking the cubed root of both sides. Okay, cube root a fraction by cube rooting the numerator separately from the denominator to get 3/2.